Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I'm gonna show you how to make dubcore techno that sound like this. So this preset is from my Wavetable Techno Bank 3, and basically today we're gonna recreate it from scratch, and I'm gonna tell you what are the key elements to achieve that type of sound. As usual, the preset will be available for free, the link in description with the MIDI file. So there is many ways to create dub techno chord, but the easiest way is you take a chord, you use a synth with a rich oscillator such as sawtooth. You can detune to oscillator, add unison, and then it will go through a low pass filter that you will modulate with an envelope to make it open very fastly, and you will get a very nice and plucky chord. And then one of the keys is obviously using a dub delay, which is a kind of a filter delay, and then put it into a lot of reverb. So that's the classic recipe. Obviously it's just guideline, you do the way you want, and today I'm gonna show you a way a little bit different. Yeah, let's get started. So first we're gonna need to use Wavetable. So I'm gonna grab the MIDI. So obviously you need to play chord. Here is a D sharp minor playing. And so after playing a chord, second thing I told you is to use a rich oscillator. So you would usually go for sawtooth. Here it doesn't really matter because you can take, for example, a triangle, and we're gonna use FM to create extra harmonics. So just gonna go to FM, and I'm gonna put the tune at 100% and the amount around 60%. So we're gonna hear how it's gonna. And then you already get something way much more richer. So now you can just like even go through all of different kind of position and make this evolve along the track to kind of add different tone and character. So that's what I've done in the original preset. You can see here the parameter tone is basically your oscillator position here. We're gonna stay with the sawtooth as it's more like the classic, but obviously you can modulate that along the track. In that case, FM give as well kind of a weird tone, which works perfectly for that case. So again, you can experiment with different tune and amount. Maybe you want to try different kind of modern processing with warp and fold. Maybe it can be interesting as well to make your simple waveform a bit more complex and richer in harmonics. This I just decided to make it your own. Obviously, do not forget that experimenting is key. Next thing I told you was to filter your sound and then modulate it with an envelope to have something plucky, and I told you to use a low pass filter. Here we're gonna do things a bit differently. We're gonna use a band pass filter, which is also common in dub techno chord. The reason being that you get this very filtered sound, which sounds really nice once you put it into a lot of delay and reverb. So we're gonna keep the 12 dB, but we're gonna use the OSR one, which allows you to add a bit of drive. So just add a bit of great. This you can come back to it later if you want a bit more dirty chord. And playing with the resonance gonna accentuate this filtered effect. And that might not be a big deal for you right now, but then when you put this into a lot of delay and reverb, it will dramatically change the tone of your sound, and that's what's gonna really make it interesting. So like I said, I'm gonna modulate this with an envelope, so I'm gonna bring it down now to then modulating up like this with an envelope. But before to jump into the filter envelope, we're gonna shape the amplitude envelope, use your volume envelope, and usually I will go for something a bit more pluckier, like this. Here I wanted something a bit different and a bit smoother, so I'm gonna bring the attack around 50 milliseconds. And obviously I need to bring the sustain a bit more, so around 50% or so, which minus 15 dB. And I can bring my decay a little bit longer and bring down my release a little. I don't need the song to last too long, but here we're gonna modify the slope, which are basically the curve here of your attack, decay, or release. And here we're just gonna modify the decay one, and we're gonna go for a more round like this, so around minus 46. All right, like this. So now let's talk about our filter modulated by an envelope. So we're gonna go to matrix, you click on frequency to make it happier here, and we're gonna modulate the filter with envelope 2, and we're gonna go around 38%. So you see it start already to move, but we're gonna shape that in a different way again. So we're gonna put here again the attack around 60 milliseconds. And we don't want sustain. Something a bit more sharper, but we're gonna put the decay around 2 seconds, and same with the release. So this way, when the filter come back, it's a bit smoother. So the filter opened very fast, but then he come back to his original position a bit more slowly. And so that's what gives this nice effect. Here again, we're gonna change the slope and we're gonna go with a very steep attack slope and a very round decay slope. So this way we have something like this. So it's even longer for the filter to come back to the original position. Now here the modulation is a bit too strong, so you can either go back to matrix, or I like to use it as well, value, and bring down the peak in order to reduce this strong modulation. You can do either one way or the other, and we're gonna reduce this to 70%. A bit smoother. So now I've done something interesting. I use the same envelope to modulate slightly the pitch to get something interesting. So modulate by 2 semitone. It gives this nice dramatic pitch effect modulation. Finally, what we're gonna do to even add more movement and variation, we're gonna modulate the FM amount. So you click here with the envelope 3, so around 80%. And you can see now how it's changed the shape of your waveform. And we need to modify this a little bit. So we're gonna choose a longer attack, around 1 second or so. We don't want any sustain. And the decay around 169. And you can leave the release at 600. All right, and finally, you remember I talked about having a rich harmonics. Great way to do that. As I say, you can use a second oscillator. I could have done that. Here, I just use the unison. Then here you have different modes you can experiment with. Shimmer and classic will usually work best. I'm gonna go with the classic for this time. And I'm gonna stay with 3 voice, 30% amount. Make it more stereo, make it richer, make it sound a little bit fatter as well. Now the preset is called Dub Blast because of this blasting effect. And in order to do that, we're gonna use amp. First thing you wanna do, we put the output in dual because it's a stereo sound. We're gonna leave the blue type of amp, and we already have this nice noisy, gritty, extra texture to your sound. You can obviously adjust with the dry wet, and we can adjust with the gain, middle, treble, and presence until you have something you like. So maybe a bit more gain, a bit more middle, and a bit more treble, and finally a bit more presence. This is really up to you. Now obviously we have a very rich signal, and if you put that just into delay and reverb, might not sound as you want. So we need to filter it, and obviously we need to filter after the amp. So we're gonna use auto filter, and in the original rack I use basically 2 auto filter because with dub techno the really important thing is to filter your sound. That's what's gonna give the character. So I leave 2 possibilities for the rack. You have first a bandpass filter, and you can modulate that and it will add variation. So I've put it in 12 dB, but I've left the clean one and with a bit of resonance. Then you can just modulate the frequency. I'm not doing the MIDI mapping with the rack, but that's basically on this rack what is mapped to the bandpass filter here feature. Another more common is a low pass filter. So this way you will be able to play with your filter along the track to add variation. So here again, add a bit of resonance. Like I said, it's what's gonna add a bit of character. I choose a 12 dB, so like this, it lets pass a little bit more higher frequency, but then that's it. After you can just so you can see here we started to be a little bit too loud. So what you can do is maybe just use agility and reduce 3 dB, let's say. So this way, even if you open, you don't go too crazy. And now we go into one of the most interesting and important part, which is using dub delay. We're gonna use Ableton Echo for that. So this is my default echo preset. It might be different from yours, but yeah, first thing important, you need to have your ping pong mode, the dry wet, and the feedback around 30%. This obviously you can play and adjust to your taste. I need to be both in sync with both left and right at 3 in 16 mode. You can shift a little bit one from the other, so this way it accentuates the stereo. You can add a bit of drive to the input. So again, this is if you want something gritty, you can go a little bit more than just like around 3 dB. Now, nothing really interesting is happening because we haven't filtered our signal properly. So that's what we're gonna do now. And again, what is important is to add a bit of resonance to your filter. So we're gonna use both the high pass filter and the low pass filter in combination to filter the delay. And that's what's gonna make this very nice sounding delay. So for this one, you can even go to the maximum on both resonance, and then you can adjust the frequency to your taste. You want to cut that low frequency, but not too much neither. obviously to hear it better, we need to maybe open a little bit. Longer if you want to add more feedback. But I'm gonna say classic around 30. That sounds great. And you can use the internal reverb. You can use an external one in addition. I'm gonna do both. And finally, you can add some reverb, a bit more reverb. So I'm just gonna use Ableton reverb. Usually a big space, so you need something around at least 5-6 seconds of decay time. And yeah, maybe a bit more amount of wet signal. And yeah, we pretty much have our sound. Obviously, you can just have a bigger decay to have a longer, to have your sound in a bigger space. You can play with the dry wet. And then what I've done is basically I've grouped everything into an instrument rack and I assign important macros. So I'm not gonna do this because it's gonna take time, but I'm just gonna explain what I've done. And that's why this one is like pretty steady and always the same. It's because here, as you can see, there is actually two automation going on with the low pass filter and the tone, which I told you was like the waveform. And this way you get something. I like when the filter is fully open, you have this very noisy stab effect. And yeah, I will put the MIDI file with the automation as well. You can see here I've automated the low pass filter for each stab to have a different frequency. So this way, even though it's the same stab, it's the same chord, it's the same note playing, having the filter at a different position, give different tone. And I've modulated the tone, which is to remember the waveform. So here at 100% it will be more square. Here at 30% I think is the triangle. 70%, 60% is more like a sawtooth. And then it goes in between. Obviously, like here 0% is more like a sine. So yeah, having that, and you can after use the bandpass filter as well. One thing you can do as well that I just realized I forgot to mention is modulating your filter with LFO. So echo have internal LFO, and you can see I'm modulating very slowly the filter. This way, basically, your filter is moving from left to right very slowly, and this add variation and avoid your filter delay to be always the same. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I hope you like it, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget the preset is in the description. I think I will make a Live 10 version as well because I didn't use any of the new Ableton Live 11 device. So don't forget to like and subscribe before to grab the preset. Have fun. Thank you very much and see you soon, guys. Bye bye.